Hi, beautiful people. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome. The smile on my face is extra wide today because I have a very special guest. I'm going to let her introduce herself first before I give her her flowers. I'll let her introduce herself and then I can tell you guys more. Over to you.
Hi guys, so my name is Omalade Okaito. Like Monica, I also have a YouTube channel where I focus on faith, travel, and reviews. It's so great to be here with you, Monica. I'm really excited about what we're going to speak about today. But yeah, if you haven't checked out my channel, definitely check it out. There's a lot of information, a lot of things that have really helped many people, and I love giving. At the end of the day, I love giving and serving to everyone out there.
Do you know what? I don't think I could have said it better because, like I said, I was about to give you your flowers. So, for those who don't know, when I started this journey, this Mon E YouTube channel, I was so overwhelmed. I didn't even know where to start from. And Omalade is one of the people that I went to for help. And she literally, she embodies what she just said that she is. She's a giver, 100%. She took, I don't even know how many voice notes she sent. And she's literally my troubleshooter for all things YouTube, down to what she uses to record, where she edits, what to do, how it works. This is the person that is a huge reason why this channel exists. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to say thank you so much again. Now, if you're seeing my face for the first time, my name is Mon E. I believe so much in transparency, and I believe that vulnerability is a strength. I believe in community and really kind of sharing, our experiences, our battles, our challenges, our wins, our successes, so that it may inspire and help other people. I'm really excited about this topic today. I think it's a very necessary one, and one that has inspired so much of what it is that I do today. So for those of you who can see, we are kind of discussing Christ or therapy. Now, Omalade and I are both Christians. And I think as we go along, you'll be able to kind of learn a little bit more about kind of how we've had to kind of navigate challenges, struggles when it comes to mental health. As Christians, I'm a huge mental health advocate, but it hasn't always been that way. Growing up, it was, a real challenge because I don't really feel like it was something that was quite addressed in the church. And I think that sometimes, when these things would come up, it's like, take it to the Lord and just pray. And it would be quite dismissive of some of the challenges and the struggles that comes with kind of just navigating and doing life. So I was going to start, Omalade, by asking you to share a little bit with us about kind of your upbringing in the church. Is mental health a subject that was really kind of discussed in the church? If it did come up, what was the response, or how did you kind of receive it? What was the attitude of church members?
So just to give you guys some context, firstly, Monica, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to actually speak on this subject. So just to give you guys a bit of context. So I'm born into Christianity, born and raised in a Christian home, more from my mum's side, I would be honest. And so when I was around 16, after leaving Nigerian churches, Afghan churches, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with them, but I found my feet around that age, and decided to say, Mum, I found my own church. I found a place that I like, which works for me, and it was really relatable for young people. So I started going there at the age of 16. So when it comes to mental health, that even through going to different types of Nigerian churches and then going into my old church, mental health was never ever spoken about. Sometimes you will hear testimonies that, I was depressed or I was going through X, Y, and Z, and then now I'm better. But you never hear the middle part. You never hear like what was the journey, what was the process. It was more of I prayed to God, I fasted, or I started to come to church, and now I'm better. And that was it. So that was the narrative that I was used to. That was the narrative that I was used to hearing. There was no such thing as referring someone to professional help, therapy, a GP or anything like that. It was just pray, and God will help and support you. So because I had never gone through anything like that throughout my church experience, to me, it was nothing. Like I didn't really see how important it was. If someone was to come to me for advice, I'll just say the typical pray, fast, come to church this day and this day, or do chain of prayer, come to deliverance service, and things will get better. So it was always like you have to do things in a certain way in order to get a certain result, almost like prosperity gospel, right? So if you give money to God, God is going to help you. God is going to heal you. You're going to receive a result. And that was what I was used to. That was what I was surrounded by. That was the narrative that was given to me. And if anyone wants to come to me and let me know that, I would. I've given that advice to friends personally who have gone through certain issues, and I've just said, come to my church, you're going to get better. So that was basically what I was used to.
Do you know what? You've said so much, and there's so much of what you've said that I really want to tap into. I think, like you, stories really similar. I think the only difference, the difficulty for me growing up was that my parents were of two different denominations. So my mum's a Roman Catholic and my dad's a Methodist. So kind of started off in the Roman Catholic Church, and then got to an age where I had lots of questions that weren't necessarily being answered, and then I started to go to church with my dad, and they had a really kind of strong youth group, so I slowly kind of worked my way through there until I want to say when I was in uni, and I guess I had a bit more liberty to start attending and exploring by myself, and went to a few different churches when I was in uni. One of which, it's a Reformed Baptist church that was in London. And they had quite, and it's interesting that I've titled it in this way, because they had a book called Crystal Therapy. And I think this was one of the first times when I started to kind of navigate mental health, like how it intersects with faith, and how you kind of navigate kind of challenges. Because I think it was about that point where I was in a really toxic relationship. I was going through lots of different challenges and I had questions and I needed help. And I feel like I needed professional help. But there was always this conflict of like, am I underplaying the role or the power of prayer? Am I underplaying like how God can move in my life, how he can heal me? I always had that conflict and I felt very guilty. And I think that particular book that I read made it 10 times worse. It was a book called Crystal Therapy. And in that book, the point essentially that was made was that Christ was enough. And it spoke about different forms of therapy, like CBT, that had kind of some historic roots that oppressed Christians. So some of those practices and tools for like therapy were actually created to cure Christians because they felt like Christians were crazy. Christians were delusional to believe that there was a God that existed. So essentially the book was talking about, like, if we engage with such services, like what message is it that we're sending? And then I felt even more conflicted. And, you know, that was a challenge for me. And I think what you were saying about kind of like some things that, you know, we fall into habits of saying things like, just pray, let go and let God. There's a reason for everything, you know. We have some default things that we say and do that we think are really, really helpful. But in actual fact, now in hindsight, with everything that I know, I don't think it's very helpful. I think it's very dismissive of what a person is going through. I think it's actually quite spiritually oppressive when we say these things. And I think it's just not really supportive of or helpful. And I think one of the things that you started to touch upon was just how we just default into saying these things without fully engaging ourselves and without fully understanding the journey and the process. Because saying stuff like just forgive or let go or let God, these things, as I've come to understand it, don't happen instantly. It takes time. It requires growth. It requires spiritual maturity. For me, forgiveness is a process. Healing is a process. And it's only as I've gone through life myself that I've started to like really appreciate those things. So I was going to ask you, when for you would you say that approach of just telling people to just pray or just like what was the defining moment for you when that kind of changed? And how did you kind of navigate that? What happened for you?
You know what? That's a really good question. And I think just to echo from what you were saying before, when those type of words are used, to be honest, it feels like it's patronizing and it's minimizing one's experience.
Absolutely.
Like you said, it's a journey. It's a process. It takes time, especially even timestamps. That's what I used to say, it's going to go away in 1 week, planning God for 2 weeks and it's just going to go away. But that's not the case. I just wanted to echo from what you were saying. However, in terms of turning point for me, is when it happened to me.
It's always the case, isn't it? It's always the case when we have those experiences ourselves. Yeah.
Honestly, so because I had never experienced any type of issues, it was fine. I've never lived their experience. So it was very easy for me to say those terms and those patronizing things because I've never gone through it, right? However, when the turning point for me was when I decided to leave my place of worship, my old place of worship after 14 years, right? So 16 to 30, that's a long time.
A very long time. Yeah.
That's a very, very long time, Monica. So I thought I would be fine. I've left, it's fine, it's okay. I'm going to keep it moving. However, when one goes through, it's called the change cycle in life, right? So when one goes through the change cycle, it can manifest in different ways. For me, it was my mental health. So I remember I was experiencing intrusive thoughts. So I was getting intrusive thoughts in my mind and I didn't know what was going on. I was thinking, it's the devil. I was like, is the devil, putting these thoughts in my mind, like putting like a lot of intrusive thoughts in my mind. And I'm thinking, hey, devil, get out, go away. And the more I was being very ritual with my religious practices, I was being very ritualistic. I'll put, and I'm not saying he's bad or anything, but I'll put, is it Pastor Michael Todd? I think it's Pastor Michael Todd.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, I'll put him on, listen to him, listen to his preachings about mental health and stuff like that. And yes, it did help me to a certain degree, but, I'll be kind of mixing like ritualistic stuff. So, running around saying, Jesus, help me, running and going around in circles, Jesus, help me. But to be honest, personally, it was making it worse. It was making it worse because it was just reminding me constantly that this is what I'm going through. And, I would just fast. I'd be like, okay, I'm going to fast. Let me fast. I was fasting. Nothing was changing. I was praying. I was doing a lot of things that I thought that was right because this is what I've been taught throughout my journey in different churches. You do this and then this is the result, right? And nothing was changing. Okay, God, why is nothing changing? Usually when I demand from you, when I ask from you, you're obligated to help me. You're obligated to support me. This was the mentality that I have. How can I be demanding and asking our Father, demanding from? Anyway, this is the kind of mindset that I had for a while. So even having to unwind religious bad practices, I'm going to say
Yeah.
that. I'm not saying it's bad to do any of these things, but in this circumstance, it wasn't helping me.
Yeah.
So I had to unwind some of these things. And I remember on your Instagram, you mentioned that you were a mental health aider. And I
Yeah.
was, oh my
First
gosh,
aider.
okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, thank you. Mental
Mhm.
health first aider. So I thought,
Yeah.
oh wow, she's okay. Monica is a, so this was, beginning to work in my mind a little bit. And
Yeah.
then obviously my sister, due to her profession, she was able to identify that something wasn't right either.
Okay.
So she was like, okay, I think you might need to consider some therapy. And this is just due to the nature of her job. So she's
Mhm.
able to identify these things quite easily. So I really thank God for her, because it was during the pandemic and we're
Yeah.
close knit, we're in the same household. So she was
Yeah.
able to see
I
that
noticed.
something wasn't right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And not only that, thank God that I had two friends who are either counselors, or they're, they've done therapy, they've studied psychology as a degree. So
Okay.
I had some
They
friends
qualified.
who,
Yeah.
they,
Mhm.
yes, exactly. So I had some friends who I was able to speak to and say, oh, this is what I'm going through. I don't know what's
Mhm.
going on with me. And
Mhm.
they were also able to advise and navigate me through that as well.
Yeah.
So, of course, I reached out to you. I think you were the first, if not my sister, I think you were one of my first point of contact,
Mhm.
to let you know that this is what I was going through.
Yeah.
And, you gave me some really good resources to read on, which was really helpful. And
Mhm.
then, of course, this is when I was getting exposed to more therapy route.
Okay. That's it's again. You've shared so much that we could delve into and touch upon, and I think, like you, story similar in the sense that when I realized there was an issue kind of navigating or having kind of mental health struggles and being a person of faith is when I went through the same kind of struggles myself. And obviously, I had already had it in my mind that to seek therapy or to seek help um, would be to downplay what God can do or the power of
Agree.
prayer. And I
Yeah.
think it's far from that. And I think it's so interesting that when it comes to mental health specifically, there's always that challenge. And I think some of it is still down to the stigma that exists around kind of mental health. There's still so much stigma, not only in the Christian circles, but also in our community as Black people, as Africans, there is still so much stigma around mental health. So in the
Mm,
way that we would, if there was like a physical health challenge, like if you had cancer, if you're diabetic, if you had high blood pressure, or any type of, even if it's minor, like as much as like the cold or a flu, if you have some sort of physical ailment, physical health challenge,
yeah.
you would feel no way about going to see a medical professional.
Yeah.
So it makes very little sense to me why we wouldn't go to seek therapy. Mental health and physical health are so intertwined. I see them as one. Do you understand? I see it as one. And a lot of the times, if you do have physical health challenges, it could lead to mental health type struggles like depression, anxiety, otherwise, and vice versa. If you have mental health challenges, it can impact your physical health and manifest itself in your physical health. So why you wouldn't seek professional help, to me, it just doesn't make sense to me now. But that's with all the information that I have now, and with the way in which I've educated myself and through becoming a mental health first aider. And so, like you, for me, and I think a lot of people probably know my story, and if you haven't, please do check out, I'll kind of link my divorce story as part of this. But I think for me, that's when I hit rock bottom, and that is when my mind like I was unrecognizable. I was not myself, and I definitely needed professional help, and I'm glad that I got it. And I think, like you, I believe that God works things out for our good. I definitely believe that. And
Yeah.
He does send help in so many different ways. It doesn't have to come in the way that we think it comes. I think I was fortunate to be going to a church at the time that embraced mental health struggles and were very clear in saying, if there is something, these are the signs, and if there is something beyond this happening, then you need to seek. You're very, very clear in saying that. And that really helped me. But like I was saying, for me, divorce, that was my rock bottom. That was the point in which my mind was everywhere. I hit rock bottom. I'm talking suicidal thoughts, all sorts of, really challenging thoughts, feeling like I was a failure, feeling like I was damaged goods. I described myself as that for like the longest time. Heartbreak, trauma from an abusive relationship, abusive marriage, a relationship that I was in for 7-8 years. And I think you were talking about, how impressionable you are as like a teenager into your early 20s, and in that kind of age range where you're going through so much change, you're deciding on your career, you're making like a lot of life choices that can really impact the trajectory of your life. And at that point in time where I've just graduated, a few years into my career, and then this happens to me, and it's like, I need to find somewhere to live. I need to do this. Like, there was just so much. The depression was real. Like, there was just so much trauma that I was dealing with. And I just thank God for like his intervention. And I see it that way. I see it as God's intervention. But for me, the things that I heard that, and we can really talk about this, some things that maybe people said to you in the church and stuff that just wasn't helpful. For me, I had people repeating Malachi 3, I think it's like verse 6. It's God hates divorce, basically. I can't tell you how many, I don't know why people thought it was helpful to give me that scripture when I'm going through a divorce. You don't necessarily know the reason, you don't know the basis, but you want to keep reminding me that God hates divorce. I was told to just forgive a lot of the times. It's just so unhelpful in a situation where someone is dealing with so much trauma as it is. Like, how does that help? And why do we do this? Like, it just, like, what were some of the things for you that like just really was unhelpful advice?
Okay. So there were quite a few things, because I felt that I felt like my friends who are Christians or who were Christians couldn't help me, because it was almost embarrassing. So, I got comments like, oh, you're strong, you're this, or what's going on with you, you're unrecognizable, or, you've got this. So when I was down or when I was weak, you were able to help me and support me, where is that strong Omalade? You know what I mean? And as encouragers,
that's just going to make me feel worse.
This is just going to make me feel worse, because
it's going to make me feel worse.
Like you mentioned, you're impressionable at like a young age, right? And I did feel that I was impressionable for like a lot of my time when I was in my old church. I was impressionable, and there were it was very easy to mold my mind in a certain way, right? So obviously after leaving, it's like I'm now trying to identify who I am. I'm now trying to figure out who I am, like, who am I? So when you're hearing things like, we want the strong Omalade back, or but I'm just like, but suppose if I'm not that strong Omalade, suppose if I'm not that person anymore, or is it because I just acted like that because of the environment that I was in, and that's how is expected to behave, because it's all about helping people. So it's all about putting your needs to the bottom and putting everyone else's needs first. And is that a bad thing? No, but you need to be the best you to be able to give to others. You need to make sure that you're mentally, physically, emotionally there to be able to give your best to others. So these were the type of things. Another thing was deliverance service. Come to deliverance service. And you know what? When given that advice, at that moment of time, maybe they felt that was the best advice to give at that time, because they know. So that's why give blame, or I don't despise or look at them
Yeah.
in a different way, because if I was in their shoes, maybe that's exactly the
Yeah.
same way that
Yeah,
I would have
I
said.
don't always
Oh,
think these things are malicious. I think people give,
yeah,
sorry to cut you off, I think people give advice. They're trying to help from what they know to do.
yeah,
But I think one of the things that I've realized is that, for example, like when you came to me, even if you're not quite fully equipped to be able to help someone fully deal with something, like don't always feel the need to have the answers. Like sometimes ask, how is it that I can support you? Like that question alone is just so helpful. Like what is it, the person may just be venting to you and sharing the load. Like what is it that they actually need from you? And if they can't identify what they need, then don't be afraid to like find someone who can help. Don't be
yeah,
afraid to put them in touch with different resources, like reading on something or being able to define or identify, just see, okay, this thing that I'm dealing with is not just in my mind, it's not just in my head. There's an actual name for this thing. This is what it
yeah,
is. Just even being able to identify that is just so helpful. Like being
yeah,
able to signpost people to resources, get them, help support them in getting the help that they actually need. You don't always have to have the answers. And I think that's sometimes part of the challenge. It's us thinking we need to say certain things, and we go into this kind of default mundane way of responding to people's challenges without actually being quite thoughtful or
yeah.
intentional. And then we unintentionally sometimes create a bigger issue or make the person feel even worse than when they even came to you in the first place. And I think that's, part of the challenge.
100%.
Yeah.
And even just in terms of again, like timestamp, you're gonna get better in a few
Yeah.
weeks time, and
Yeah.
I just never did.
Mm-hmm.
I never got better. And I think what was really hard for me was some of my friends around me, and I don't blame them in any way, but what was hard for me is there will be certain red flags or certain things that I'm saying, and they weren't able
They're
to
not picking up
identify.
on it.
It
Yeah.
wasn't picking up. I wasn't able to identify something was wrong.
Mm.
There'll be even just the way I ask. I'll just be like, oh, in the Bible it says X, Y, and Z, and I think I'm
Mm.
experiencing certain
Yeah.
things. Does it mean that? And they just couldn't. They couldn't pick it
Yeah.
up, and I
Yeah.
think that was my most frustrating part, because I now felt isolated.
Mm-hmm.
I now felt alone. I now
Mm-hmm.
felt that I was dealing with it alone,
Yeah.
and I just felt like I didn't have that supporting network, and I could only rely on individuals again who qualified, or who knew, or maybe one or two who actually experienced it, and I
Yeah.
didn't even know they had
Yeah.
actually experienced it. When I'm like, I'm going through this, and they're like, I understand exactly what you're going
Yeah.
through. I
Well, that's
do it.
because people are not vocal. And this is why I'm such an advocate for like transparency and seeing vulnerability as a strength. Because a lot of the times people go through things and they go through it in their silos by themselves without realizing that a lot of the times, like these are testimonies, these are things that could help somebody else as they're going through their own challenges. Because one of the things that the enemy likes to do is just really isolate us in our
Yeah,
struggles and make us feel like there's an inadequacy or there's something specifically about us that is happening specifically to us. And
yeah,
sometimes like even part of the healing is recognizing that this thing is not necessarily specific to you, and there are steps that you can actually take to like get better or get over it, kind of thing. And then it makes the challenge not seem so big.
yeah,
And it's just interesting, and this is the reason why I'm such an advocate for having more mental health first aiders in the Christian community. I don't think we can just ignore and act like faith alone. I don't want to underplay the role like
right.
of
Way.
being like a person of faith, but we
Yeah,
know that faith without works is dead. Like there are sometimes actions, steps, things that God has so gracefully provided for us. Do you understand? We have professionals that are qualified, that are experienced. And like I said before, we have qualified medical doctors that we would go to for a physical ailment. Likewise, we have qualified professionals that we can go to for mental health services, and they are there to help us. It's there to work for our good. And I just want to, use this opportunity to encourage anybody who may be going through challenges to please, please, please seek the professional help that you need. Like, my heart breaks every time I see that someone has taken their life, and it's just like people are so unaware as to like the challenges, the battles that people silently like go through. I feel like we do need to do better. We need to be more intentional. Yes, we need to pray. Let God lead you to those people. But then if you recognize, or, you're able to pick up the sign, please don't downplay or underplay what a person may be going through and how challenging it may be for them. Like, help support them, walk alongside them, be your brother and your sister's keeper. I think it's so, so important.
And
any thoughts?
Yeah, you know what? I've got quite a few. So I think check-ins, I'm an advocate for check-ins. Because check-ins, you're able to identify if something is wrong. You're able to tell, okay, is this person okay? And it's just from time to time. Do a check-in every single day. But even, both you and I are encouragers, right? So we may not get as much check-ins, and it is what it is,
I've got a video on that.
Oh yeah, I can't wait for that video. You know what? And sometimes I get so annoyed. I get and it's been like this for me for years. This is not something.
It's not easy.
Yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy. But those check-ins are really important. And even you yourself, if you know that you're not feeling your best as well, as Monica mentioned, do not isolate yourself, because one of the biggest mistakes that we do within our community, especially because it's a taboo, right? It's a taboo to go through some mental health issues. It's we don't think about it. God will solve it, and that's it. It's embarrassing, especially with mental health as well. But that's another topic in itself. Topic in itself. But it's really important that we do not isolate ourselves and we do not deal with this alone. And another thing that I was going to say is that, we're not blaming the church, and we're not saying that the church needs to be the therapist and now open this whole, counseling church or any service. We're not saying that, but what I do recommend and what I do stand for is for churches to have resources, to have people where they are able to direct them to the right places, to advise them to go to the GP, to advise them to see a therapist, not to just go into religious mode and say pray about it and everything's going to be okay. At the end of the day, it works hand in hand. How I got better, and it's not just how you get better, like because sometimes I have my down days, but I have through therapy and through Christ, I'm equipped, and I know how to manage myself exactly when I'm feeling a bit low or feeling a bit down, and I'm aware of my emotions and I'm aware of what's going on, as opposed to suppressing it. And I really feel that it's really important that we have more more mental health first aiders in the church. It's these little things that make a difference. Do you know what I mean? Are we saying that everybody should become counselors and therapists? No, we're not saying that, but we are saying that, okay, why not once or twice a year where we have training on how to navigate through these issues, or how to advise and support somebody that's going through any of these issues, the type of questions to ask, especially when you're in leadership, because I was in leadership for quite a long time, and I also went through certain trainings as well for other things, but I think this should also be part of it as well.
Absolutely.
So that's one thing that's some of the things that I wanted to add.
No, I think all those tips and all the things that you're saying, I think being intentional with check-ins, absolutely. And I think what you're saying about the church, I don't even think it's a blame thing. We are the church. We are the body of Christ. And I see it as a key part of our witness. I really, really do. And I couldn't agree more with what you were saying, because there are organizations that will train, like religious establishments, they will train people up. And I can almost guarantee you that, God forbid, someone was to pass out in the church or to collapse, there would be people that would be able to provide life-saving first aid for them in that situation. But if someone was in a mental health crisis, would people be equipped to know what to say and do, and not put someone in a position where they end up feeling so much worse because of the things that they're saying? Yes, prayer. I believe so much in the power of prayer, but the answers to prayers come in so many different forms, and sometimes that includes engaging in professional services. I will say it again. And I think it's so, so key, because a key part of mental health first aid when I went through the training was being able to talk someone down if they're in crisis, being able to identify different signs and symptoms of different conditions, knowing what to say, knowing how to approach it, being able to refer into services and all the rest of it. Like, this was kind of a key part of the training, and I think it's so, so important and so essential. So I think that actually brings us to like a nice kind of place to summarize. Do you want to provide any kind of final thoughts or words for people out there who may be listening to this?
Yeah, so some of the stuff I have covered, and I will repeat in terms of, please do not deal with this in isolation.
Yeah.
Do not deal with it in isolation. I really do believe that speak out, like just the way I spoke out to you, Monica, and some close-knit friends around me. That was the start of my journey. That was the start of me getting the right help. And then at the same time, God works in the background, where we can't see, He is working. He is
all out.
Work in the background. And, of course, prayer is key. That is very key. Being intentional with the scriptures that you read when it comes to the issues that you are going through. I remember I used to have them all over my wall and I repeat the scriptures. Exactly. Every morning I'll ask God, please, renew my mind, and I still do till this day. So I don't know if you guys can get where we're getting at, but it works hand in hand. At the end of the day. Exactly. At the end of the day, God has provided therapists for a reason, in this world. At the end of the day, He created our minds. So He knows what we're going through. He knows the hardship. He knows the struggle. So, of course, don't you think that these people that are out there are also here to help? Yeah. And then, again, the combination with Him. So just ensure that, do not just feel that, okay, Christianity and, Christ helps, but don't just use that alone. Use the resources that God has provided in this world to also help you as well. And be patient with yourself. Be kind with yourself. Don't be hard on yourself.
Because, it's a journey.
It's a journey. It takes time.
It
takes. I remember being hard on myself, saying to myself, "Okay, it's gonna go away by next week," and stuff like that. But no, and you have to be intentional with your mental health. The same way that one may be intentional when they're with their physical health or what they eat, and emotionally, you have to be intentional with your mental health as well.
There's so much. You're literally like, there's so much we could talk about. Oh my gosh, you're really appreciate it. Keep it coming. Sorry.
No, girl.
I'm excited. I'm so passionate about this topic. Yeah.
Honestly, because once your mental health is down, everything is down. Yeah. You can't function. Everything, like you're working, you can't work properly.
Your focus, everything.
Even going out, just getting ready, everything is
so difficult.
It affects everything. So that you always need to put that first.
Yeah.
You need to put your mental health first. Do not neglect it. That's the and you have to be intentional. Do not be lazy. I remember, I'm not a journaler. I don't journal. I don't. I remember having to journal.
Yeah.
Even some people find it difficult to speak, you know, to therapists and actually speak about what's going on. But I had to be intentional. I had to speak. I had to sit there. It was during the pandemic on my MacBook, put the camera on and speak to my therapist for 50 minutes. It's an investment. You know, at the end of the day, I remember there was, you know her, Monica, but I won't mention her name. But I remember she, you know, for her birthday present, she invested in, you know, therapy.
I recently did the same. I'm back in therapy. I did exactly the same, and I started around just before my birthday. That was my gift to myself. Absolutely. I think it's the best investment you can give yourself. It's the best investment for me personally. And you know, everyone has different experiences, but I think when you're paired with the right counselor and you ask the right questions, you're paired with the right person, it can be a game changer. And you know, I absolutely second everything you say about, you know, the need to be even so much more intentional about what we're consuming in our minds. You know, I think our diet is more than just, you know, our food, the food that we eat. What do we listen to? What do we watch? You know, I think you have to be so intentional these days about what it is that you're taking in. So I absolutely second every single thing you said. I know how difficult it is to kind of overcome in these situations, but God is more than able. He's more than able to make that happen. And he uses so many different things and works things out for us in a way that a lot of the times we can't even comprehend ourselves. Like, let's not put ourselves into this box of what we think, you know, a good Christian consists of. Like, let's not, you know, we grow up with so many kind of ideals and wrong kind of ideologies and bad religious practices, like you said, and we limit God so much, and we place our time limits on him. We place God in a box almost, and we think that our healing has to come in a particular form. And what I've learned about healing is that it's a journey. It takes time, and there are times when you make a lot of progress, and then you might have a bad day, and you just keep moving, and you'll keep being intentional. But for me, therapy has better equipped me to be able to handle life's challenges, to deal with the baggage that I came with from my childhood, to deal with trauma, to overcome so many different things. So I'm, as you can tell, a huge advocate for therapy. And I think we were so intentional with this title, Christ or Therapy. No, you don't have to pick. You know, you don't have to pick one or the other. We thank God that there's an opportunity to serve God and still engage in mental health services and get the help that we need. So I am going to say thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being here. Guys, please, all the Money gang, the Money family, go show Omalade some love on her channel. Make sure you subscribe to her channel. If you're not subscribed, please stay tuned. I've got so many more videos coming, so many more collabs, great, amazing people that I plan on bringing to the channel to really explore this topic even further. I thank you so much for being so willing to be transparent about your journey and, you know, what has worked for you, and to have this conversation with me. Guys, it's been awesome as always. I can't wait to share so much more with you. Please do subscribe to my channel, and I will see you on the next one. Take care, beautiful people. Bye.